Hey there guys, welcome to Clueless Knights.
Hi there.
Episode 2. Alright, so this is our monthly vidcast that Mike and myself are doing.
Yeah, we're going to be going through stuff we've done, and stuff that's happened in the news, stuff we're thinking about.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff.
And this episode should be shorter because we're not going to talk about ourselves, which
we're
is
trying to rabbit on quite so much.
So, we're going to start off, get straight into it. How was your month of gaming?
Yeah, pretty good. I played lots of board games this month. Haven't really done as much miniature gaming as I would like. It's, as viewers will probably know, trying to get in the time for a miniature game is often quite difficult because they're generally 2-player. So if you've got more players coming around, if you've got 3 and 5, it's obviously a bit more complicated. So you end up playing board games a lot of the to I didn't get much miniature gaming
It's also
in.
easier to sit up and
Yeah, that's it. But I got loads of gaming in as always.
Yeah. Well, the other problem we had, and it's only a problem for this country,
Yeah.
is that we had a week of like snow and sort of a storm come in.
That's it.
And if you live in UK, you will know that that just basically switches
That's it.
off
The
the
smallest amount of snow hits the floor. Well, I can't leave the house.
Yeah. So that put a spanner in a lot of our works, but we did get some gaming in.
Yeah, certainly did.
But let's still start off with some news that we've heard over the last month. And do you want to start with your first?
Yeah, so as usual, I'll concentrate on kind of like the more Games Workshop-y stuff, as Jason knows a bit more about other stuff that goes on. So I'm going to start off with the Daughters of Cain release, which you've probably all seen out there. Loads of new models coming out, especially Morathi, the queen of the Daughters of Cain, which is an amazing model.
I quite like the Medusa-looking serpentine chicks.
Yeah, they're really good, and there's
yeah.
also the winged kind of like harpy-looking ladies.
I love the idea, the fact that I was watching one of the Games Workshop vidcastings, and they were saying that Morathi, basically, her offspring have either benefited from the snake side or the wing side.
Yeah,
like
because they've got half and half.
Yeah, and so they quite like, a mixture of stuff.
Really nice-looking range of models, really different. I think, again, it's playing into the fact that Games Workshop are trying to release more ranges with more women in the range. There's more or less all of them are female. In fact, probably all of them, because they're the Daughters of Cain, are female models, and they're not sexualised models. I mean, in the miniatures industry, you get so much of that. Infinity, a game I also play, does it massively. Any female model will be in a suggestive pose. There'll be boobs out, bum out, and just how they hold their legs just looks like they're basically standing on a catwalk trying to appeal to a men, which is kind of how they're trying to sell the miniatures. They're trying to sell you this model appealing to men. Whereas the Daughters of Cain are scantily clad, but they're not scantily clad for sexual purposes. They're scantily clad because that's what they're wearing, tattooed, but none of them are really in a sexual pose, and I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
You're allowed to put a scantily clad woman, because you have shirtless men and whatever in this type of miniature gaming, but the fact that they're not quite seem to be doing it for titillation purposes, I think is quite good.
No, it's more for thematic reasons.
Yeah, that's it, and that's
I mean,
fine.
like, if you've got a half snake body, I mean, there's not a lot of clothes you can wear on a snake.
Exactly.
In fact, I've not seen many snakes with clothes. No, I really like him as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I in the old Warhammer Fantasy, I used to do a Dark Elf army. I was a big fan of the Dark Elves. And I wanted to try, at that point, I wanted to make a Witch Elf army. But when I was doing it, obviously Witch Elves were metal blisters of, I think, like 7-8 pounds for 3 sort of thing. So it was a very slow progress. But then when I stopped doing the Dark Elves, they actually brought out some really cool stuff. They brought out the Witch Elf plastic box set. They brought out that big cauldron of blood.
Which I've seen a couple of times online, and that's an amazingly good value model.
Yeah.
Because you get this really cool looking Medusa model in it. You get the Avatar of Cain, which you can now play separately as its own model. You get like 2 characters on foot. You get the whole cauldron thing. And like I say, it's only £42. But that's £42 from Games Workshop. You'll pick it up for 35 somewhere. You get a couple of big models, another really big model, some small character models. When you're paying 20 quid for a Space Marine character, that shows us a really good value model.
I saw the start collecting box for them as well. It's like, I can't remember how much it is, but let's say it was 70, 80 pounds. That comes in there, and that was like made up most of the cost of that box anyway, and then you get loads of other stuff with it as well.
The start collecting is a really good value. One other thing I noticed about that was looking on their Facebook site. I noticed somebody online that I follow called it up. Somebody asked a question on the Facebook site, when are the High Elves going to be re-released? And the response obviously wasn't clear. Games Workshop never give you hard and fast answers. But reading between the lines, it was basically saying, we're not going to be releasing the elves as you know them from the past.
Yeah.
There will be a new type of elf who will have evolved from the High Elves. And interestingly, there's also been all the rumours this month about the Sea Elves coming.
Yeah, or the fish people.
Yeah, the fish people. That's will be interesting to see if it actually comes true, because Games Workshop haven't said anything, but they've hinted there have been a couple of their kind of like the rumour mill thing and been a couple of underwatery bits, so I wouldn't be surprised.
They've been joking about that for years.
Yeah, I know, and then it'll come out.
It'll be quite funny to do it because I mean, Ray back in the day, they were the fishmen of Apocalypse or something. It was really funny. Well, I've actually noticed that they've as they call them elves, they're moving completely away. I mean, a little while ago they did the wood elf or Sylvaneth. And you've got a beautiful model in the Scarab,
That's probably my favourite of their fantasy ranges, the Sylvaneth.
And
just amazing.
Some really unusual tree stuff as well. Like you've got the elves, sort of half elf,
half elf, like morphing from.
Yeah, so they're really venturing away from their medieval.
It kind of shows Age of Sigmar. It is people think it's just a new retelling of fantasy battle, but it's actually once they've got all these new races, it is a completely different setting. Like all the dwarves have come out. You've got the ones who are literally kind of like on fire. You've got the steampunk airship ones. You've now got the elves coming out who are kind of like half snakes, half wings type of thing.
Yeah, it's a completely different setting.
Completely different setting.
I mean, even the basic human faction are basically giant golden. And
they're making
marines.
all of the races really distinctly visually different. So really, really nice job, I think. Actually.
Yes, I agree 100%.
What have you got on your list?
Well, actually, I've got a game from Privateer Press that's actually just been announced recently. It's a game they used to do before. When they brought out War Machine, which is their core game, the one that they've always brought to the forefront. But they had this side game called Monsterpocalypse.
Haven't heard of it.
Which, if you think Pacific Rim.
Oh yeah,
right.
Cool.
So you got big kaiju robots.
I think I may have seen some of the miniatures from this then.
And big monsters and that sort of thing. But before that, they had this game out 10, 15 years ago when, and it was a pre-painted sort of booster board game.
Oh, interesting. Pre-painted?
Well, that was pre-painted. So you just go into shop, buy a booster, and you got some random monsters and kaiju robots and things like that, and then you run around the city beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
And it was a very simple game, and it did okay for them. I mean, it was a really decent seller for them, but not like holy crap, it did well.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a game where you need to buy hundreds of miniatures, which is like a bad point about any miniatures game if you can't keep on selling miniatures to people.
But I think I'm roughly guessing, about 5 or 6 years ago, it basically just died out, and they stopped supporting it, and it was just gone quiet. But now, in the last couple of weeks, they've announced they're going to redo Monsterpocalypse.
Cool.
But this time, it's you don't buy boosters, you just buy the miniatures you want.
Yeah.
It's not pre-painted, so you have to paint your own stuff. And they've revamped the rules, they've revamped the look, they've added a few more factions, or revamped the factions. Cool. And it's now basically a proper miniature game where you build and paint your armies and customize them, and it looks pretty good actually.
Interesting to see Privateer Press releasing a new game that's completely separate to Warhammer Hordes, because I know, I follow lots of podcasts, and I know in America, in many places, Warhammer Hordes has died a death since their 3rd edition came out, and 40k 8th edition being far more tournament friendly, as it were, has also given it a bit of a kicking, I think. So,
I've always loved Warhammer Hordes, especially I quite like the Horde side of things because it's more appealing, the medieval side of it. But I remember that back in the day when it came out, it was when we brought it into the shop sort of thing, and we were playing it. And I remember playing it the first few games and thinking, this is ridiculous. Everything is so like, oh, attack this unit's broken. And then you attack me back with something, and I was like, no, that unit's broken.
But it's that style of game, isn't it?
And
how do you counter the fact that this is unfairly broken? Well, this is also unfairly broken, so we're both unfairly broken, so that makes us balanced.
Yeah, exactly. And that was really interesting and unique to me. I've never played a game where I felt everything was so powerful, and yet it somehow balanced each other out. And it was really cool. And I like the idea of that. It just brought out this one book and everything was in it.
Yeah.
All the factions, all the rules, everything. It was a really cool idea, and the models were different as well. They had these huge cricket bat swords and bulky.
That's my problem. I've never got into Warhammer Hordes. I'm just not a fan of the miniatures. They just don't appeal to me on any level.
I can get that totally, because it's very unique. I mean, they had a very unique, almost manga style look to it.
Yeah, it's kind of like nearly there. It's kind of cartoony, but not quite.
Especially in its infancy, when it was there was no hordes. It was just this big mech sort of style game. And slowly it's been changing over the years. Every time they did a new edition, I think more and more people kind of fell out of love with it. It started getting to craziness where you had to have massive armies. You know, before it was just you walk past a couple of
it
warjacks.
used to be a small skirmish game, but when they're adding the really big miniatures, which obviously that's one of the things nowadays in miniature gaming, is people like their big centerpiece models.
Yeah.
I know I do.
Yeah.
But you're adding that in, so you've got to make it points appropriate, so you've got to increase the size of the armies overall, and that makes the game slower to play. Takes away from the reason a lot of people probably played the game in the first place.
Yeah, I think from a company perspective, they probably just ran into a point, kind of maybe similar to like Games Workshop did with Warhammer Fantasy. It's like it's reached critical mass now.
Yeah,
they've redone the edition so many times.
Everyone has all the stuff they need.
Yeah, and every time you do a new edition, people get more and more annoyed that they have to rebuy books and rebuy this and rebuy cards and rebuy everything. So I think they reached the point because they started dabbling into board games as well and role-play games. I mean, role-play games has always been Iron Kingdoms has always been a big part of Privateer Press, and I've even got a board game up there, the Undercity, which is one of the sort of dungeon bash style games they brought out. So they are starting to move away from
diversify,
to try and bring some more different revenue into the game, which I think is a good idea because I can't imagine any companies ever really survive just on one product.
No.
I mean, I know Infinity does really well, but they're starting to branch out now. It
ebbs and flows, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All games go through up periods and down periods.
Another thing I wanted to mention, although this is moving into the Kickstarter realms, Cool Mini or Not, or CMON as they are now known, have announced another zombie side.
We were talking about this earlier.
Yeah. And this one, obviously, you can see maybe behind Mike ears, like I've got a lot of zombie side stuff, and I've stopped buying them a while ago now because I never get to play all of them. I mean, they did the Green Horde recently. Now they got Zombicide in space. That's not its official name, but it's basically a setting in space. You know, imagine Space Hulk or Sedition Wars, like we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
Where you basically got zombies and space marines and that sort of thing, and they really look space marine as well. I've seen the artwork for a couple of this stuff. The zombies look alright. They're quite cool. They're very alien-esque rather than more zombie-esque. But I'm not impressed with the heroes, if you like. They are literally like space marine molds.
Even an old one in the dumpster in the back of
yeah. And the artwork hasn't impressed me that much either. But it's interesting to see where they're going to go with this.
You've got different types of gamers. There's you and I who play, I mean, people can look around. You play hundreds and hundreds of games. I play a fair few different games. But there'll be some people out there that Zombicide is their game, and they'll play that all the time. So you've got to keep on producing content for those customers of yours that buy everything you release and are waiting for the next release to come. So they've got to go somewhere else. They've done the fantasy stuff, they've done kind of the modern day stuff. So where'd you go? You obviously go into sci-fi realm and see how you get on there.
And to be fair, the setting itself is actually pretty cool. I mean, I remember a few years back when I backed Sedition Wars, which was one of the first Kickstarters I backed. I mean, I loved the look of it.
That's the game came with loads of cool terrain, didn't it? I've since tried to buy that terrain for Zone Mortalis and cannot get hold of it for love or money.
That terrain set is more valuable than the actual game itself.
Yeah, you can sell that for quite a lot of money now.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it was made by Studio McVeigh, who ironically do a lot of Cool Mini or Not's miniatures. They did Blood Rage, Rising Sun, Hate. So they made the original, and it reminded me so much of Dead Space, which is one of my favourite Xbox games.
Yeah, really good game.
I really love that game a lot, and they even made a Isaac miniature as well.
They did, I remember.
But the game bombed heavily. I mean, it's just nosedived into subterranean levels. And I'm not really sure why, because I don't think. I mean, I know the models had issues on the Wave 2, and the rules obviously had a lot of clarifications needed, which was a problem. But ultimately, I thought it was a decent game. I mean, it had. I think if they'd just come out with maybe a second edition revised rules.
A lot of that Kickstarter stuff is they do the Kickstarter and it takes a little bit of time to get to thing, and they don't support the game enough. I mean, so much, again, taking back to 40k as I usually do, is 40k nowadays, one of the reasons it's doing so well is because Games Workshop are so supportive and so reactive to what's happening. If you have a problem with something, you just make a note on their Facebook page and they'll come back with an answer. They have scheduled FAQs. When you've got games that are not at all supported, you feel the company's not correcting any issues. And certainly with a first issuing of a game, there are always going to be rules imbalances and issues.
Yeah.
But they need to get on that and fix it straight away, so the people who are playing it don't get annoyed when they're playing it. Don't go, oh, well, this unit's crap, I can't use that, or this unit's broken, I have to use that. That needs to be fixed early on, I think.
And I mean, they just have made some poor decisions in, like, for example, one of the things off the top of my head I remember now was you had these cards which were representative of the models. So, for example, if you were playing the zombies, the aliens, the parasite or whatever, you would have, say, 7 zombies on the board, for example, but you would have 3 of the same model, then another 3 of the same model, and then 1 extra model.
I see.
So that's not a problem in terms of gameplay, but when you have the 3 cards for those 3 different models that are exactly the same looking, and the card is exactly the same, there's no way of differentiating.
What are you differentiating
there?
Yeah,
so you either have to right, I'm going to stick 1 and 1 on this one, and a 2 and a 2, and it got really, you got this paperclip keeping the wounds level. That after a while,
that needs to be something they think about at an earlier stage. Yes. They need to include something.
It almost feels like
make your own,
it wasn't play tested when you look at something like that, because you think well, how can this make it through the play testing phase? It's clearly not workable. But that was the type of problems they were suffering from, and I remember going on their Facebook page and the forum and stuff. And it was people wanted the game to succeed, but they never took that step to make it succeed.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember them talking about doing a second Kickstarter where they were going to do another an expansion, but it was like a standalone expansion.
Yeah,
and they were going to do a third faction. I can't remember. It was like a mercenary type faction, and the idea behind it was the first game you had was like, I want to call it the Nakamura, but it's not because that's from Dead Space. But it's like you had the ship. And this new expansion would be like a ship plugging into that ship, like coming to board it, and that's how the infection spreads. And then this is how they would get their third faction into the game. And I quite liked that idea. It was really cool.
That would work.
It never materialised.
No.
What else you got?
Okay, so what have I got? I've got a couple of other GW bits to mention. So there's Forgebane, which is the new... It's not a starter set as such, but it is kind of like a starter set. It comes with the 8-page rulebook inside, and it comes with small factions, quite playable for both the Adeptus Mechanicus and for the Necrons. And it's quite interesting, those two forces are... There's not a whole lot of history between them, as in kind of like famous battles or whatever, but in the lore of them, they're quite mixed. I mean, there's rumours that there's a Necron Catan buried on Mars, the ancient world dragon, and they're obviously both very roboty, technologically based races, so it looks really good. And there's a couple of new models in the set. Firstly, the price point for the set is, so far, it's only been rumoured that it's about $160, so that'd make it maybe £95 to £100.
Alright.
The models inside, not including the new ones, which you don't know the price of, are more expensive than that £100.
Yeah.
And then inside you get 2 Armiger Knights, which are the new miniature knight.
Like mini knights.
Mini knights, which I think they're probably maybe that kind of size, so bigger than a dreadnought. They're maybe 8 inches. That might be, well, maybe completely out of wrong there. Who knows how big 8 inches is? Anyone?
No.
So maybe kind of like around that size from people guessing, looking at pictures. But they're a nice model. I'm really looking forward to getting one. And there's this cool Necron.
Are you and Si going to go halves?
Well, I might buy one and then sell the bits I don't want on eBay, because I really only want the knights.
Si does Necrons.
Yes, Si does Necrons, so I'm seeing him tomorrow, so I'll see if he wants the other bits for it. But I really want the knights, so I think that's going to be another really good value kind of like starter set from Games Workshop. And the other thing that I thought you might be quite interested in, because we've spoken about something similar, there is a thing that was announced at a trade show in America, at a toy trade show, called Blitz Bowl.
Yes, a little mini version
which
of
is mini Blood Bowl. It's 6 players aside, so anyone out there who plays Blood Bowl and picked up the last box set, you'll notice that each of the teams comes, you get 2 of the same sprue, so you get 2 blitzers, 2 throwers, 2 catchers, 3 linemen on each sprue. So they're just giving you a sprue each for orcs and humans inside. So you've got your 6 players. The pitch looks like, I think it's 8 squares wide by maybe 16 squares long. And it's supposed to be played in half hour. I mean, we've discussed many times about trying to do fast Blood Bowl, because one of the issues of Blood Bowl is to play a proper in-depth tactical game can take you 2-3 hours, and you can play a full-size tabletop game in that time.
Well, and also it's quite I feel Blood Bowl is one of those games where, like, if you're really good at it and I'm not good at it, I got no chance.
There is a big skill factor in Blood Bowl, and it'll be interesting to see how it works, because they put in the humans and the orcs. Neither of the humans are reasonably fast; the orcs are quite slow, but neither are super fast. But how would you incorporate Skaven into that, where they can get models up to 11 movement?
Or dwarves?
Yeah, and dwarves. No, but it's more the fast movement, like the Skaven and the elves. How are you going to stop them scoring in one turn? Yeah. Literally, you kick the ball to me, I pick it up, score.
Yeah.
My turn again, you kick the ball to me, I pick it up, score. So it'll be interesting to see if they've actually thought of anything about that. But that was it announced, which I found quite interesting.
They announced at the same time as that. They also announced, I think it's called, is it called Space Marine or Legion or something?
Oh, there was a weird,
like a Space Alky style.
It looked like you can there was one Space Marine from 6 different chapters.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of Necrons, but you don't get the Necron models in the set. I can't remember what it was called.
I'm pretty sure it was called. It's one of the, it reminded me of an old game that they did before, which is like a smaller version.
It reminded me of Space Crusade.
Yeah.
It looked like it was the type of game that you'll sell in a toy shop, and people will pick it up and they'll have 6 Space Marine models, and they're all nicely different and thematic. And there were tokens for the bad guys, but they obviously said, if you don't want to use tokens, here, buy this nice Necron model to use. But yeah, it looked like it's another one of their, which they're doing a lot of, the intro games they can sell in other shops.
Yeah, get people in the door.
Get people. That's what they need to do. Get people in.
Going back to the 40k starter set, I quite like the look of the Necron stuff. The new Necron stuff, and I say new, I mean the Necron stuff that they've had for the last couple of years.
Necron model range is a great model range.
I mean, when I started, I always liked the idea of the Necrons, like Tomb Kings in space.
Yeah, basically.
But when I started playing, all they really had was the Monolith, the troops, and the Immortals, and then the Swarms and Scorpions. You know, and it was quite generic, and it's one of those things. As a painter, it's boring to paint when you paint it for a game.
Yeah.
But you could paint it really nicely, but then it takes too friggin' long.
Yeah.
You know, because you'd have to spend so much time painting it. And I never got over that hurdle. But then obviously we played that big game at Games Workshop, and I love some of the new stuff, the battle barges.
Yeah, Cy bought all his stuff.
Yeah, and the big spider walker things.
And Cy's painted all his stuff himself, and he doesn't spend a huge amount of time painting them, but they look super effective because they're because they made more or less the entire model range in one go. They're all so, what's the word? Thematic. They're all the same.
Flowing, yeah.
Yeah, they all look like they're all part of the same range. They've all got all the same kind of details on, and it looks so effective as a big force. And
nowadays, there's this painting technique that people use. It's called I think it's called the light dark technique, where it's like Necrons are perfect for that. Where you paint something really dark. So, for example, like the Necron shell, you paint it all black.
Yeah.
And then you use your airbrush to do these really light bursts on glowy effects and things.
Yeah.
And it makes it pop like crazily good. And it's really easy technique as well, and a fast technique to do.
Yeah.
And on the board, it looks brilliant. But when you get up close, you realise that there's not a lot of...
Yeah, they've literally got plain colour, spot of highlight colour type of thing.
And but that's something maybe to think about in the future for myself.
Cool.
I've got one more thing on the news front to talk about, and that is, of course, the Batman Kickstarter from Monolith. Yes. Now, this is interesting. The Batman Kickstarter is blowing up. It's got almost up to $3 million already.
Yeah, massive.
So many figures been unlocked. It looks fantastic.
And cool looking figures as well. They've done a really nice job on them.
Brilliant game. It looks good. It uses the Conan system, which we
played. We talked about last time. We both enjoyed.
Yeah, and they've actually made some modifications as well. Like in the Conan one, you can now play in the Batman one. You can now play where both people have a river.
Oh, cool! That was one of my favourite mechanics of the game.
You have a 1 versus 1. You choose your squad of dudes, and you have the river mechanic to activate your stuff.
Oh, nice. What are they calling the river?
Oh, they did actually say
the lineup or something like that, probably.
Yeah, I can't remember, but it looks fantastic. Interesting point about this, because I'm obviously heavily involved in the board game industry as well, like with all the reviews, and I paint a lot of figures for the companies and things like that. I've seen a lot of posts come up on the Facebook groups about how expensive the Batman game is.
Yeah,
and because I'm more predominantly a wargamer first, and I've always been a wargamer. And like we were just talking about the new 40k starter set, which is going to be $100.
Yeah.
For, I mean, I don't know how many miniatures are in there, but let's say 50 miniatures.
Go on, there ain't even that many.
Well, exactly.
You keep talking off, quickly work it out.
And what the Batman Kickstarter is, it's $140, right? And you get a ton of stuff. I mean, it's probably well over 100 miniatures already.
I think 27 miniatures in it. Possibly.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the board gamer community are adamant that it's too expensive. Like, who would pay $140 or $300 if you add on all the extras and stuff for a box of miniatures? And I keep saying that, like, I mean,
come to my house.
Yeah, there's a whole wargaming community that would pay easily $140.
Yeah, if they're good quality miniatures, you will happily pay between £3 and £5 for an infantry-sized miniature nowadays for a good quality one. Obviously, you can get cheaper than that, but they're probably not as good quality.
because it's really interesting listening to their conversations as well. Like, you know, they'll be talking about, like, for example, you know, it's $140 for this game, which is predominantly paying for the miniatures.
Yeah.
And they would rather have all the miniatures taken out and just have counters and bring the game down to $40.
And it's a very different thing, and Kickstarter does that a lot now, and some games I'm for it and some games I'm against, is the inclusion of miniatures into so many games. Some games don't benefit from a miniature.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of games have a miniature as your player token, and they'll put in loads of these different ones, and in that case, when you're interacting with another board which is just tokens and stuff, I don't see a need for a miniature.
Well, I got a good example of that. We played either last week or the week before, we played the new Thunderstone Quest from AEG, and it's a deck building game. I mean, and it's literally just a deck building game. You know, draw your 5 cards, play your cards, buy a new card, and that sort of thing. It has a little bit of a change where you can go down this dungeon and fight stuff in the dungeon, which it's had since the original incarnation. But this new game, and I think it might have been a Kickstarter exclusive, so I'm not sure, but it comes with 8 miniatures, right? Right? Now, these miniatures are literally less than useful. I mean, it's on your turn, you go, I'm going to go to the dungeon, and you put your miniature there. It's not even relevant to your character. Like, I was playing a warrior, but I'm using a mage figure, because they have one of each of the classes, but it's like, what if you're both playing warriors? You know? It's not even relevant to your character. It's not relevant to the game. It could have been just a token.
And they probably charged you maybe a couple of quid a miniature. That's like 16 quid extra onto that game for stuff that they could have done in a print-out bit of card. Yeah. Which, totally fine. But come back to the Batman game. In that game, it's all about the miniatures. Yeah. They're really nice miniatures. It is it's a board game, but it's kind of like a miniature battles board game, if it's anything like Conan, which it sounds like it will be. Conan wouldn't have been the same if we were playing with counters there.
I agree, yeah. It's the whole thing. It brings you immersively into that world.
Very much.
Because ultimately, those type of games are not thinky games. They're more of like, you know, this is us having fun and rolling some dice.
When you have counters, it kind of like takes you backwards from the game and makes it a bit more risk-like. It's more I'll move this group into this zone to try and take control of this area. Whereas if you've got your miniature, you're like, I'll charge in there and cut him up with my sword. Because you can see the sword, you can see the orc. You want to make those two things meet, as it were.
Yeah, my sword to your face.
Yeah. And that's what the miniatures do. They bring you in. And for a game that's so visual, and for a property that's so visual as Batman, all the heroes and villains are much bigger, larger than life. Seeing them on the tabletop, that's what's going to draw you in. As well as the gameplay, obviously.
And of course it brings even more people in that are not necessarily gamers, but more, you know, artists, painters, or just people that love the comic, you know, that sort of thing.
A lot of people will buy that game and they may not play it that often, but they'll have all the miniatures displayed. They'll make up their own dioramas. There's miniatures, there are so many different aspects to miniature hobbying, which is why probably we enjoy it so much. You can do so much with your miniatures. I have all mine displayed at home in glass cabinets when I paint them, and that's one of the things that makes me enjoy painting them, is that I can then display them. Yeah, it's a good conversation piece when people come in. Yeah. I mean, whenever I go to your house, I'm always looking through the cabinets. Yeah, exactly.
You know, under your bed and in your cupboards.
That's one under the bed, Jason.
Don't worry, she won't make it this far.
Yeah, that's true. It's your turn hours ago.
All right, so that's the news section done. Have you got anything else?
I have a couple of very quick things we'll just quickly talk about. Star Wars Legion is coming out later this month, and very soon now, I think.
And the rules are out already online.
Looks pretty interesting, and a couple of points to say about it is, firstly, it's a different scale to all the other Star Wars miniatures Fantasy Flight release, which
I think it's a kick in the ass.
I think it's kicking the ass to all the people that have hundreds of their miniatures from what's the other game called? Imperial Assault. But also the price point on the stuff. I was reading an interesting article comparing the price point. So the AT-ST, most people other than Jason will know what that is. How big is the AT-ST in Imperial Assault? Just give us a.
It's about
that, sir. Yeah. So the AT-ST from Star Wars Legion is more or less Imperial Knight size. So that size.
They've shown a comparison between the two, and it's like
and it
is $45. Really?
That's $45.
That's not.
So that's going to be what, 30 quid, I think.
Actually, that's basically.
It might be $49, but around 30 something quid. Compare that to an Imperial Knight price, which getting it on discount you're paying 70.
Well, the thing is, I mean. It's probably not as like the Imperial Knight.
It's nowhere near as posable. Yeah, well, maybe posable's not.
I mean, I'm thinking more Sentinel. Like,
it's not going to be as detailed. It's not going to have all the options and stuff. But apparently, it's quite detailed. Yeah. But that size model, I'm thinking they are aggressively pricing Star Wars Legion And there are so many Star Wars fans out. I think it might make quite a big splash when it hits. I think a lot of people will be picking it up.
I mean, I think they've learnt a lot from, because obviously they did the Rune Wars miniatures game a year ago.
Have you played that yet? Or
no.
You were so excited by it.
I know, it's still sitting there taunting me. But the thing is that they brought out the Rune Wars miniatures game. They started with just the starter boxes, and they didn't bring out any expansions for like the first 2 months.
Yeah.
And then they started slowly drip feeding the expansions out. And I think that's hurt them in the long run because, you know, people start getting the game on the table. They start playing the right now.
When you get excited, you want to go in deep.
Exactly,
you?
yeah. And now it's like, oh, now I've got to wait 2-3 months before the really cool shit comes out.
It'd be interesting to see how fast they bring stuff out for Legion, and also if they do any other factions.
Yeah.
There's a couple of ways they could go faction-wise. They could go scum like they've done in X-Wing, so you get your bounty hunters, things like that. Or they could go quite alternate university. They could bring in things like a Sith army. They could bring in a Yuzun Vong army. Stuff like that. It'd be interesting to see what they do, because I think a tabletop war game needs more than 2 factions.
Well, the thing is, I'm trying to think of a game now that does this. I've got one on the tip of my. I just can't think of it, but I think they'll go with the 2 factions, which does into sub factions.
Yeah,
you know, so for example, if you're playing the Luke side, you could have like a Wookiee army or just a
you can go
army.
Hoth army, or you can go kind of Imperial Navy, Imperial Army type of thing.
I think you'll get benefits for doing specifically.
Focus it down.
I think that's probably the route they're going to go down, especially initially.
Yeah.
When there's just the basics.
I suppose they have to bring it out and see how much interest there is. If it sells like hotcakes, then they'll probably ramp up production. They'll have a load of ideas. But it's one to watch, I think. See what it does. I think it might make a big splash in the market.
I actually hope it does well.
Yeah, me too.
Mainly due to the fact that I want Rune Wars to stick around. In 10 years' time when I'm ready to play
it. One other quick piece of news I'm going to talk about is there's the Harry Potter board game / miniature battles game coming out later this month. From Night Models. Yeah, from Night Models, which looks interesting. My partner is a massive Harry Potter fan. So
as is mine.
I have looked at the models and the game, and it looks quite interesting, but they haven't released all the price points and things as yet, so I'm not sure whether I'm going to be backing. But the miniatures aren't bad. They look certainly like the characters from the films and stuff. The only thing I'd say is some of the posing is a bit weird. Like, you look at the Hermione model, she's kind of like going like this, with a scarf all flowing around her. And you think, Hermione doesn't do
mode or something. She's
supposed to be casting a spell, but she's kind of like standing on one tiptoe with her leg cocked up, and her scarf looks like it's alive around her. And I showed it to my partner, and she was like, "Oh, these look quite nice, Harry Potter models." And she was like, "Is that supposed to be Hermione? What's she doing?" And then kind of like there's Ginny sitting there, and Ginny's in a bit of a seductive pose, side on, sticking her bum out.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, I mean, they're all just kids, and if you just have them a static, standing up sort of pose,
that's it.
It'll be very boring.
But then the one model that you expect to be a bit larger than life and interesting, Luna Lovegood, for those who like Harry Potter, even though she's got all kinds of weird shit she wears, all kinds of stuff. She's just standing there kind of like cross-armed, looking like this, with nothing weird on. You're like, is that supposed to be Luna? Just seems slightly strange modelling choices, but interesting game to watch.
I'm actually interested in looking this out. Obviously, the same with my partner Carla. And my son as well. They're both big Harry Potter fans. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what this goes like, because I know Night Models obviously do the Batman miniatures game, and they did the DC Marvel game, and I've done a lot of commissions for the Batman stuff already, and I've got more coming as well. And I've not been impressed all that much with all the models. Some of them are beautiful and really good, and then some of them are just wank.
Yeah, there's a bit of a disparity. I noticed the 2 Weasley twins models, they look massive to start with. They are like twice as tall as the other models, and the other models aren't like Harry in his first year. It's kind of Harry and Voldemort, and they're twice as big, and they look like giants. They look like, they made Grop, have they?
They did a gameplay video on their Facebook page.
Oh, really? I haven't seen that.
I bookmarked it to watch for later, but I haven't watched it yet.
It looks like an interesting mix of miniature and board game, because it comes with boards, but you're supposed to be able. It's not like you always use this one board. You can mix and match the boards to make different locales from the films. So yeah, looks like it could be interesting.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So that's all the news?
Yep, that was a long segment because there's loads of stuff happening.
Yeah, well,
but the next segment is not going to be as long because we haven't played that many games. Okay, after you.
All right, so gameplay. We'll start off with John and I finally got Lion Rampant to the table. So, as you can see, there you go.
Look at him, he's all prepared and everything.
Yeah. It's from Osprey, designed and written by Daniel Mercy. And I've got to say, it was pretty damn good. Really enjoyed it. We played a demo game, if you like, between the two of us.
You were two exact same factions versus each other, weren't you?
I mean, I basically bought a second-hand army, about 3 boxes of Fireforge models, and they were all built up, and I literally just split them in two, and went, John, you take this slot, I'll take this slot.
It's always interesting playing a mirror match like that, though, because it really does just come down to tactics.
Yeah. Although now that we played the demo game.
How many rules did you get wrong?
Well, I got one massive rule wrong. When you do morale tests, you're supposed to roll 2d6 and then minus the various things from it. I was rolling 1d6. So it's like
so you were a bunch of cowards.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. I said to John after a couple of turns, I was like, I don't understand. How are you supposed to rally? It's impossible. Roll a d6 and add the 4 casualties. And it's like I need a 6 if I've taken less than 4 casualties. So I was like, this is bullshit. And then I read, oh no, it's 2d6. But then we played out what I call my first play video, which is where I put up the video battle report of us just playing through the game for the first time properly.
Is there going to be a link here somewhere?
Sure, yeah, in the sleeve, or you can just, on this channel, it's there. It's the only battle report I put up last month.
Same for me.
But we really enjoyed it. I thought it was good fun, and later on in the hobby section, I'll be talking about some of the miniatures I painted for it. Which is now steadily progressing, which is nice. Awesome. But yeah, it was good fun, really good time. And I don't know if you didn't see the video.
Haven't watched it as yet. It's quite a long one.
Yeah, well, it was difficult because it's one of those, like in Bolt Action, I've always struggled on how to film the game because it's one of you draw out of dice.
Yeah, a lot of the drama is in the die pulling out and stuff like that.
And this one, it's all about when you roll your 2 dice to see if your unit activates. If you fail, it immediately goes over to your opponent. And I wanted to include that into the video.
As that's such a big part of the game, you need to include that. It's like in 40k, I always include the roll for Seize the Initiative. Anyone who plays 40k knows the Seize the Initiative roll is one of the most important roles of the game. So you want to include that drama in the video.
Yeah, so that basically what it came down to is I filmed the whole game.
Yeah.
From start to finish. And then me and John chatted a little bit at the end as well. So it is quite a long video. And hopefully, maybe I'll stream it. Because also, I was saying in the video, and people could comment on that as well, the first 3 to 4 activations of round activations that we had was moving into position.
Yeah.
So there's no casualties or anything, or even that much attacking for the first half an hour of the game.
But it's quite good in that kind of medieval type game because if you're using kind of infantry block stuff, that's how combat used to be. It is all about getting position. Once you're in a superior position, you can just ride your cavalry straight over an infantry block because that's what would happen. So it's getting into position to do those shock charges and things.
Yeah. It was good. It was a really good drama. I really enjoyed
it. So I played a game against my mate Chris, a game of 40k. We were playing, I think, 2,000 points. Jason will again stick a link somewhere in the sleeve, I think he calls it. It was one of Chris's first games of 8th edition. He's just bought a Space Marine army from my mate Nick. So he went over there and went through all the goodies in these boxes I'd picked up from Nick. Very good deal, Nick. Chris is pretty happy. We played a game. It was a super close game, actually. I think we played till turn 5 and I won it.
No! Don't say 1.
Oh! I played it. Jason will have cut this bit out.
No, I'm not.
So I played against Chris. Really good game, really close. It was touch and go. Who knows who was winning when you got near the end of it? But it was a really close game. Thoroughly enjoyed it against Chris. But that was the only miniatures game I played last month.
I watched that report.
Good. Did you enjoy it?
No. I'm kidding. No, it was good. It was interesting. It was quite interesting watching Chris because it seemed like he doesn't like Space Marines.
He doesn't like the 3+ save. Chris is an expert at rolling 1s and 2s, which when you have a 3+ save.
I see. Because almost every turn it is it's my turn for the dirty, disgusting Marines. It's like, why did you buy a Marine army then?
I don't know. He likes to look at them.
But yeah, it was interesting watching the game. I thought it was quite tight at one point.
Yeah, it was really tight. I've clinched my as you do.
Well, talk about what other games you played.
So a few other games I've played. So one thing I was going to talk about, it's actually miniatures related, is Project Elite.
Oh, yeah. Have you played that?
Yeah, I played loads. My mate Nick, you hear us mention. Hi there, Nick. He's got everything for Project Elite. He kind of when he got the base game come through, and then he went on eBay and religiously hunted down all the expansions. He's got all the giant monster expansions, all kinds of stuff. And we played a really good game of that. It was nice and tight. It was just how you like a game of Project Elite. Project Elite is a game.
I've just not played it.
Yeah, which is you each play a hero guy, and then it's kind of like a castle defense game. So there are waves of enemy coming towards you, and every turn a load more of them generate. and come towards you. You've got a mission to do. The mission we were playing, we had to get these crates. We had to push them upfield, lock them in position, and then get back to our home base. While there are all these waves coming, and at so many points during the game, did we sit there and go, well, we're fucked. We cannot beat that. That's just, there's so much stuff there. There is no chance of us doing that.
What he's not mentioned yet, it's also a time-based game.
Yeah,
so
that's the most interesting aspect
of it. You have like 2 minutes, is it 2
Yeah.
minutes? And then you basically roll in these dice to do your activations, but they also activate the aliens on certain dice points.
Well, there's a red symbol on each dice, and if you roll that, you have to resolve that first, and you have to move an alien closer to you. And if any aliens get to you, they deal you damage. If any aliens get to your home base, you lose the game. So it's real time. It's super frantic. You spend like 10 minutes planning what your strategy is going to be, and then 2 frantic minutes of throwing dice at the table and yelling at your friends. It's really good fun. And we got this massive monster came out at one point that cut our time down that we could do. Loads of other stuff, but we managed to do it in the end. Really, really good game. Enjoy playing that.
Considering this is a miniatures channel, we're going to talk about that game as well. I backed a Kickstarter as well. And I remember at the time when it was on Kickstarter, there was 2 games I was interested in. It was this one and another one. I can't remember what the other one was. And I went for this one mainly due to I liked the idea of this time aspect.
Yeah.
And it came with a
unlike anything else I've played.
Yeah, and it came with a shit ton of miniatures.
Oh,
and
Nick must have 300 miniatures for this game.
Total loads. But the problem was I was a little wary at the time, but I thought it'd be alright. You know, I've not had any problems so far with any other Kickstarters. And it was made by a really good company who's do really good board games, which I think is Ares Games.
Yeah.
And the Italian company does some fantastic board games. And then there's the other company, which I didn't really know much about, which is Draw Lab. And they, as far as I know, the only thing I've seen them do is coins, basically.
Yeah.
And then when they released the game, when it came out, they showed all these artwork and 3D renders of the miniatures. And I was like, oh, they look alright, they look good. You know?
The miniatures are not special.
Oh my god, you should have seen the first print run. They started giving the games at Essen to people who backed it.
Yeah.
And then they started putting pictures up on the Facebook and stuff like that. And I swear to God, it looked like miniatures that had been basically glued to a base and then candlelit. You know,
they are not crisp detail in any way. They are quite. And to be honest, the hero miniatures are a little better, but all the other ones are big blobby aliens. You can tell the difference between them because they're different shapes somehow, but there's no detail in them.
Yeah.
But the game doesn't need it.
No, and it's not. It's like when I originally backed it, I was thinking I was going to paint these up and make them look really good.
And then, good luck with that.
Yeah, when I saw what the quality was going to be like, I was just like so disappointed.
Yeah.
But then when I've seen the gameplay videos, I realised that actually painting up these miniatures is not really that good idea.
It's not needed. They come in different colours as well, which really helps if you're doing a game where you don't really intend the miniatures to be painted, because there's so bloody many of them. Yeah. The different colours really helps.
And because of the time period, in those 2 minutes, you're moving stuff around, they get knocked around a lot, thrown around a lot.
And the aliens, you put them on the board, and then you'll take more or less all of them off the board in your turn, is the idea. So you don't really need them painted.
No, and also another thing that put me off about the painting then was they are actually moulded to the base.
Oh yeah,
Like their legs are literally engraved into the bases, so you can't even take them off the bases to redo something with them. So that's why I'm looking forward to playing it, but they're literally just sitting in a box.
You'll enjoy it. It's good fun. Although interestingly, going back to again the company, I can't remember which of the 2 companies it is. They replaced a load of the models, didn't they? But then they said, we ain't doing no more for this game. That's it. We're out.
The owner of Ares Games was saying that he's so disheartened by what has happened with this, that he'll never do another miniature game again.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And we were talking earlier about Kickstarter including miniatures. These are the type of miniature that you don't want to add £100 to your game for, because the miniatures, they're not good. The biggest fan of the game will say the miniatures are not good. But they don't really need to be that good in that game. And as long as they shelled them out for like 20-30p a miniature, then that's fine. That's what's needed.
As it is, the miniatures are actually probably too good for that type of game.
Yeah.
Which is ironic considering how bad the miniatures are.
But I would agree that the game needs miniatures, not counters.
Yes.
Because it really, just adding that level of 3-dimensionality to the game really kind of like increases the pressure on you. You feel like you're being surrounded by a wave of enemies, which is the feel the game is trying to evoke in you.
I mean, the artwork is quite gruesome. Like, they're quite gribbly looking. So,
it's interesting. Nick's got all the stuff, and it's every time we play it, it is very different. He's got like 4 or 5 different maps. He's got so many different alien miniatures, and all these. You've got this special boss deck and Nick's got kind of like, he'll pull out this trunk like this that's full of all these different weird and wonderful massive alien monstrosities, which look like monstrosities because they're this weird no detail plastics lobbed together. But yeah, really good game.
Right, a game we've been playing, if you're familiar with legacy games, so like Pandemic Legacy, Risk Legacy,
Yep.
we've been playing Charterstone from
Nice.
Stonemaier Games. And we've been playing this with my partner and I and our friend Martin and his partner.
Oh, Margaret's been playing as well, is she?
Yeah, and
cool.
it's a really good game in terms of like that, because it's not co-op. We're building this city, if you like, or villages in a city.
Yeah.
And each of us have got our own sex. So, for example, I'm playing the stone faction, so I got like brick-based resources and that sort of stuff. But the way it works is it's worker placement. You place your worker down on, say, for example, I want stone, then I'll go to my stone produce.
Yep.
But if I need grain for some reason, I can go to Martin's grain factory and get grain.
See. They're nicely cooperative.
Yeah. And then when you go somewhere, it doesn't block people out from going there. They just bump you off and get your worker back.
Ah, okay.
So, and then if you have no workers in your hand, you just recall all your workers. So it's really friendly in that type of environment, but there's a lot of stuff going on in terms of, like, when the first game you play, it's just very standard worker placement, and you kind of like, okay, this is pretty cool, and and then as game 2 and game 3, so many stuff has been opened, and like as you like open box this to add this to the board.
What kind of stuff is it adding? Is it adding kind of like, is it adding more resource mechanics like shops and things, or is it adding threats to your villages and?
Well, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but it adds a little bit of both.
Cool.
And various other things as well. We're down to game 8, I think.
Oh,
now.
so nicely in, so you kind of know where it's heading.
I think there's 14 or 12 games, but I know there's not many left now.
Yeah.
And Carla's won 3, I've won 3, and Martin's won 2, and Margaret's won 1. So that's 9 games. We've played 9 games. And so I think there's only 3 left. So there's 12 games in the game, and then once
on, Margaret, come from behind.
Once you've finished building this game and played it through the campaign, it's then a separate game on its own, and then you can play from then onwards as a normal worker placement game on the board.
Ah, interesting.
So it's not like the other legacy games. It's like, well, we finished it. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Bin.
Because interestingly, the Pandemic Legacy, it starts off as standard Pandemic. You can just play the base game without opening any of the legacy bits as Pandemic.
Yeah.
But then it changes the game as you go, and you couldn't play it anymore.
Well, exactly. And same with Risk Legacy. I mean, Risk Legacy says you can play it afterwards as normal. But the game has changed so much that it becomes unbalanced for a normal.
It's interesting. That's a good way of doing it, of having the finished game be the base game to play. That's kind of like the Harry Potter card game, which isn't legacy per se.
No, yeah.
But it starts off on year 1, and by the time you get to year 7, you've opened up all the cards, and that's kind of like that's what they intend you to play as the base, quite difficult, quite long, card drafting game.
What's interesting about this one as well is double-sided. The board is double-sided, so you play on the one side and you modify the board and name it and do all these extra things to it. And then on the other side, it has another exact same map, and you can buy a recharge pack. And then it just gives you the cards that you've used already throughout the game and stuff.
I see, so you can then replay it with another group. That's good.
And it's not like one of those games, like I played 3 campaigns of Risk Legacy. But after the first campaign, I knew exactly what was happening and where it was happening. So I kind of sat back from the decision making of the game.
Yeah.
Like when other people are going,
watch other people choose.
We're going to do this and we're going to do this, and I'm sitting there thinking, I know what's going to happen when this happens. And I'll just sit quietly and wait to see what they do. But you can still play the game normally.
Yeah.
I know I haven't played Pandemic Legacy yet, ironically.
No, I haven't either. How are we, 2 massive board game fans,
Yeah.
not having played what is many people's best ever board game?
And now there's a second one.
Yeah,
so.
my friends Paul and Alexa are in the middle of playing through the second one, and they say it's maybe not even better, but it's on par with the first one. They absolutely loved the first one, and they're really enjoying the second as well.
Maybe we should get together when you and Emma come around. We should do it once. Do
you have Pandemic Legacy?
No.
Emma has played Pandemic, and she quite enjoyed it.
I don't think Carla's played Pandemic yet, but I think
maybe this should be a conversation we have not on video.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe include the woman as well.
Yeah, we can ask their opinions. What else did I play this month? I played something that you'll be quite pleased to play. I finally played Champions of Midgard with all the expansions added in.
Oh my god, I love that game.
Really enjoyed it. I kicked ass.
What do you think did you watch the review I did of the Champions of Midgard video I did?
I believe so, yeah.
Because I think you were in the original.
I was in the
review.
original one, but not in the
Expansions one, and we threw Dave into the deep end. Like we added everything, and he's never even played the game before.
I played with two people who had never played it before. Myself and Dando had played it before, but I hadn't played with the expansions.
And we threw him in, and it was brilliant. And he enjoyed it so much. He then went out and bought everything. So he
likes doing that, doesn't he?
Yeah. It's such a good game.
I really enjoyed it. I did one thing I'll say though, and I really like the first one. It changes the game quite a lot. The gameplay is much heavier combat, which is obviously what they're going for. There's so many more dice to get, different types of dice. If you haven't played Champions of Midgard, it's a worker placement game, very similar to what's the City of Splendor's Waterdeep game?
Oh, Lords of Waterdeep.
Lords of Waterdeep game, very similar to that. Except you can collect dice as you go, and there are monsters to go and fight. And your dice are your warriors, and you roll the dice when they're fighting, and they have shields and swords on, which help you beat stuff up, and you get victory points for killing things. But the expansions introduce loads of different dice and loads of different things to do with your dice, and it was super good. There was never a turn came by where you'd sit there and go, "Oh, I can't do that." There was so much to do on the board. There are so many different paths to go down.
I'm going to send you the link to the video, the review I did, because just skip to the end where we get our verdict.
See your talk about.
Yeah, because it was a really interesting discussion, I thought, because I brought a point there where I loved it, by the way, and I wanted to make the I love the expansions, I love the game.
Really good game.
But I thought the expansions changed the game quite fundamentally.
Interesting, because that's as I just said, that's the exact feeling I had after playing it one time. Really different game.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know, I can't remember what the space on the board called. There's the space you go to where you get the extra cards that give you different victory points.
Valhalla, isn't it?
Okay, so we think we were talking about Champions of Midgard.
Yeah.
Great game, go play it.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about how the videos we were saying that really changed by adding the expansion. Not changed for the worse, but just changed.
Yeah, very much so.
Whereas most expansions, which I'll get onto in my next thing I'm going to talk about, is most expansions just add like more of the same, don't they? You like this, here, have some more of this.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
I've got one other game I can speak about that I've been playing. I actually ordered the new Fire Slayers for Shadespire.
Oh, nice.
And I've been playing quite
Love those models.
And I've been playing quite a bit of Shadespire the last couple, because it's so easy to set up, just throw it on the table.
Yeah, it's half hour, isn't it? To play?
Yeah. And I taught it to my son Alex, and I've taught it to a couple of other guys.
Good age for him to play as well, because longer games, kids can kind of like lose a bit of interest, but 30 minutes, it's really quite visual. All the models are super good models as well.
Yeah, and it's really quick to grasp as well.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the deck building side of it, we just leave that for now and just focus on what you go with.
Yeah, you can play with your standard decks. You don't need to get into the kind of like this card's slightly better than this thing that you can get into when you're doing the kind of the deck building side.
And I'm going to start doing videos for it as well. And then when I get to the video part and I have everything painted up, then I'll start playing around with the deck building and so on.
Again, because I call them armies, the forces are so small, it's so easy to quickly paint up a team as well.
I'm quite looking forward to painting the Fire Slayers.
Especially things like the Stormcasts. I mean, gold detail done.
Yeah. Alright, so is that it?
I had one more game I'll just quickly mention. I played another game of Eldritch Horror, which is probably my favourite board game of all time.
Have you got the new expansion?
I have the new expansion. So Eldritch Horror is a Cthulhu Mythos type game where you're kind of trotting all over the globe trying to stop an ancient one, kind of like a force from beyond time and space from taking over and devouring the world. And the latest expansion has come out, which I personally think is going to be the last expansion. Fantasy Flight won't say that, but it's all the hallmarks of being the last expansion. They've added loads of stuff in this expansion which expands on the previous expansion. So there's been 8 expansions for Eldritch plus the base game. If you own all of them...
Is that all big box expansions?
There's been 4 big box, 4 small box.
Oh, okay.
And this one is a big box without a new board. And some people say it's not got enough content, and it's quite expensive. I've noticed a lot of Fantasy Flight board games they've gone up in price and down in content. They're not quite as if I took the first big box expansion.
In the whole
I take
board game
the
industry.
the first big box expansion for Eldritch would have a load of stuff in it and would have been maybe 35 quid. The new big box expansion is retail probably 45 and has a chunk less stuff in it. So you look at your value alteration there. But overall, a really good expansion. I really like the Ancient one they added. He's really interesting, plays differently to previous Ancient ones. New characters are really interesting. Added these personal stories for every character from every expansion, and they were quite interesting as well. We played a game, went on for about 3 hours. It was super close. Came down to the last turn, and we looked at the Mythos deck and was like, shit, we're losing next turn. We have to win this turn. Mouth, go there. Do that. Do not fail at it. And really nail biting stuff. I find games are generally best if you get to the very end and you're not sure if you're going to win. If you steamroller through a game, not as interesting as if you win by the kind of like edge of your teeth.
That carries over into miniature games. For
me
as well.
Really.
I'd rather lose a game really closely than win a game by a landslide.
Yeah, like that game I played against Chris. Really good fun because I'm not saying who won or lost, but it was really close. We didn't know who would win at the very end.
Same game that I had with Lion Rampant with John. Yeah. I mean, at one point it looked like I was going to get absolutely massacred, and then it swung a bit. And again, I won't say who won.
Interesting. Well, we're slightly on that point. It goes away slightly, but in tournaments in 40k, you get more points for utterly annihilating your opponent. When you utterly annihilate your opponent, that generally means you're a lot better than them. In general. And you get awarded more points for winning like that than if you play a person of equal skill and just beating them. And the points difference in certain tournaments is massive on what you get. You get so many more points for completely annihilating the opponent from just beating an opponent of equal skill, which I think is a much harder thing to do than beating somebody who you're much better than. Just an interesting side point about how points are scored.
I mean, most tournaments rank it based, like if I play you in the first round and you beat me 20-0, then I would play someone else who's lost 20-0 and you'd play someone else who's won 20-0. But then obviously, if you beat that person 20-0, and you then will go play someone else
who's got won two 20-0 games,
and it kind of creates what's supposed to be a pyramid. But it's an interesting point that you bring out, that obviously, if it should be rewarding players.
Seems like that. If I play the best player in the world at 40k in a tournament, I'm unlikely to beat him 20-0. But if I scrape a kind of like 10-9 victory out of it, in many tournaments, depending on different tournaments score in different ways, in many tournaments I would get a very small kind of like points reward for that victory, whereas you play in the second round of the tournament, you play against the world's worst player, you ruffle stomp him 20-0. You get loads of points, whereas I've beaten the world's best 40k player.
It does create a situation as well where sometimes a player can win the game when the two best players have got 2 massacres and a draw.
Yeah.
And then some guy who's a decent player but not the best has won 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
Because he didn't get to play the 2 best players. You know what I mean?
It's hard to score because in miniature game tournaments, not just 40k, any miniature game, because the games take best will in the world 2 to 3 hours to play, you can't play enough rounds to kind of like granulate out this player has beaten all these other players. You have to have points rewarded for something. So when you get to the end of the 3-round tournament, you've got your 4 players that have all won all 3 games. You've got to differentiate their wins somehow.
Well, it also happens sometimes you might get 5 or 6 players on.
Yeah.
And then like the 2
You've
guys.
got to have side scores, and generally they go to how many points did you win your game by. But often that's not a very good show of how well you've done. You can win a game and you've done brilliantly doing so.
I always found that, like in tournaments, like for example, card tournaments or something like that, when you random draw for the first round, and you on your first round you get drawn against one of the best players.
Yeah,
and
you get a kick in the teeth. Isn't it?
And then you just kind of lose, like sort of 15-5 sort of thing.
Then you need to submarine, come from below, play the worst players because you've been pared down.
And it's like you've got no chance of winning either anymore.
No. In certain tournaments when it's either knockout or you have to win every game to have a chance of winning, that is a bit disheartening. Played in many Magic tournaments like that.
Yeah.
Round 1, you've got the rest of the day because you've travelled there with mates, and they're still in. You're like, well, I can stop now.
Yeah. Should I go to a cafe and coffee and drown my sorrows? Alright, so that's all the games played. Obviously, not a lot of miniature games.
Not so many miniatures, but I'm playing a game.
We each got a couple. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, that's in the upcoming section. Didn't look at my copious notes.
So, hobby time.
Hobby time. It's been a hard month for me because I'm getting married reasonably soon now, so finding the time and work's been a bit crazy. But I have finished painting my Leviathan Dreadnought, which I bought last year. It's one of my favourite models produced by Forge World. bought it, loved the model, been painting it, and finally finished it. So hopefully Jason will put a picture up here somewhere. See if he manages. But that's all I've really painted. I've done a bit of Zone Mortalis scenery. I'll quickly mention this in hobby. Necromunda came out, and they released a set of doors for Necromunda. Don't know if you've seen them. You'll have seen the doors. They come in Necromunda. You get kind of like the tiles, and then they give you doors that you can put on it. The Necromunda tiles are exact representations of Forge World's Zone Mortalis tiles, exact sizes. So they introduced these doors on the Games Workshop advert for it. They say, bonus, these doors will also fit your Zone Mortalis tiles. I thought, brilliant.
Do they not fit?
Buy those. So I bought a set, painted them all up. Got down the Zone Mortalis. Emma was there. I was like, oh, look at these. It looks so good. It didn't bloody fit. A couple of mil either side. And I went on the internet, and loads of people have had this problem. And somebody had asked on the Games Workshop Facebook page and said, hold on, it says these will fit. They do not fit. And their answer was, we were sure they fitted. We went and got and measured a Zone Mortalis tile when we were choosing the size for these. And their answer is that because, I mean, the Zone Mortalis tiles, you may not have seen them, they're made of resin, but they're this weird blown resin. If you turn them upside down, you'll see that basically they're not solid resin like most things, they're hollow. So it's literally, they take, I'm not sure how they do it, but they blow the resin into the mould and then just pull it out of the mould, I think. And they say that it's got quite a lot of variance in it, and most people, it seems to have variance wider.
Can you not sand down the doors?
Well, I've started doing that this week. I finished doing it yesterday, and now finished dry brushing them all up again to get to the stage they were all painted at. I tried filing them with a metal file. That was taking a long time. So in the end, I work in an electronics factory, so I have an industrial grinding wheel. In the end, I had to take the grinding wheel to, and I was literally melting the plastic from the side with this grinding wheel. I was not best pleased. An hour at the grinding wheel, they now all fit.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I saw a guy talking about this the other day, saying that if you bought multiple of the Necromunda boards, it basically replaces the Zone Mortalis.
Oh yeah, they're exact representations, they're 2D representations. So it doesn't look as nice, but they're all nicely coloured and such, and they've got kind of like other little features kind of like in them that you can choose to have a game impact or not.
How much is one square of a Zone Mortalis board?
A Zone Mortalis costs £25. I think it's £28 now for a 1 foot by 1 foot. Which actually is reasonable for a highly detailed foot-by-foot piece of terrain when you think on it.
Yeah, £25 is not bad.
But obviously you need
75.
Obviously you need quite a lot. I'm very lucky. I've got 3 foot by 4 foot of pure Forge World Zone Mortalis sections, and then I've made myself another 4 1 foot by 1 foot tiles, which are bare tiles, but I've kind of like taken wood and I've grooved them to be the same sizes. And then I put scatter terrain in those, kind of like crates, so you have it as a hangar bay, something like that. So I have a 4 foot by 4 foot, which I'm going to be using tomorrow. But yeah, it's not the cheapest thing to have, but it makes for a really good game.
I was just wondering if it was like a kick in the teeth, like you spend like $200.
Oh no,
it's
very different, because I used to play kind of like Zone Mortalis style stuff on my old Space Crusade boards, and it's a different feel moving your model around a proper 3D thing.
I agree. I love 3D terrainers.
But it's a good substitute. If you want to try Zone Mortalis, crank out your Necromunda boards. Unfortunately, there are no official 8th edition Forge World Zone Mortalis rules. So I've obviously written my own, as you do. But
it'll probably
it's easy enough to cobble together. Yeah, they'll release it at some point. Forge World are so behind at the minute.
Alright, so my hobby time. What have I been up to painting-wise?
Far more than me.
Well, yeah, that is kind of my job. But as
how many circuit boards have you built?
None.
See?
Wouldn't it be funny if I said like 10?
Yeah, I'd be like, what? You can work for me.
Right, so obviously we've been playing Lion Rampant. I want to get my army painted for that, so the videos that we produce in the future will have more painted stuff. So I painted up our first squad of foot sergeants, which is 12 spearmen.
It's the type of game that does well with some colour on the models as well, because it's all about the heraldry and the striking kind of like reds and yellows and things.
Exactly, yeah, and because we got exact same armies as well, you know.
Yeah.
And
knowing John, he'll have painted his in like 10 seconds flat.
Well, black with the red stripe.
Well, yeah. No, he'll go for the kind of like plastic grey look.
So I've ended up with a squad of foot sergeants, and I've started the crossbowmen. I'll hopefully have them finished for the next battle report. I also did a little diorama for my mate. He's got on Kickstarter at the moment. He's got the game called Robin Hood and the Merry Men, which is a sort of a worker placement game where
it looks really good. Really nice little meeples in it as well.
And he's the designer of the game. It's doing pretty well. It's made 250 grand already.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty...
Drinks on him.
Yeah, definite. So I made this little diorama. I don't know if you guys remember the old Bretonian characters, but they're like French names, Bertrand and all that. I had a set of those, so I made this little diorama, and obviously you'll see the picture, hopefully.
I'm assuming you're going to post this to him before the video goes up.
Yes. Well, you might not see this because he's a pure board gamer. But
if you know him, don't tell him.
Yeah. So it's basically you got those characters sitting around a fire, and I've color printed out the little version of his board game.
Looks really good. And
onto the fire, and like a little note saying, congratulations on funding, but not everyone is as pleased. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. I hope he likes it.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. I think that'll go pride of place. I think.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. I worked on most of that, and then I've also done because I did Fallout last month, and I quite liked those type of games. Yeah. I've got another game called Ruinbound, which is a similar style game, but obviously set in the Terranoth world. Which is
you're
Ruin
a big
Wars.
fan of the Ruinbound, aren't you?
Yeah. So I've started painting. In fact, I've got one that I can show you. Well, I'll have the picture up, but this is.
I recognise him from the cards.
Yeah. So he's the first one done. I've got the others base coded and ready to go. But he's the only miniature I've done. And just, out of interest sake, if you're interested in what I did for commission-wise, I did Ariadne Infinity Army.
Looks really good. I play Infinity myself, and some really cool-looking models.
I did.
Did you assemble them, or did he assemble them?
No, he assembled them, thank
goodness. Oh, thank God for that.
He sent them to me assembled.
Great game, a bitch to assemble the models.
Oh, man, I've forgotten that. I've done some Scythe figures.
Again?
Yeah. Oh, my God, I'm so sick of that. And I've done something else which I can't remember, but if you go to my Facebook page...
Surely you've painted about 1,500 Star Wars miniatures this week.
Actually, that's calmed down now.
Oh, really?
Because I think, same with the Eldritch Horror, Imperial Assault has reached the end cap of how many expansions they're going to bring out. And obviously now...
it was like one a month, wasn't it?
Oh, well, so came out so many. And I've done so many Star Wars figures, it's ridiculous. But now, with Legion coming out... That's why I was saying it's kind of a kick in the teeth, because I've done a lot of Imperial Assault sets.
Yeah,
and the people I've painted for have now gone like, for example, I've painted, say, 20, 30 Stormtroopers for the Imperial Assault stuff. And now they're going, well, now I'm going to have to come back to you with bigger Stormtroopers.
Yeah, it is a strange... And you can see why they've done it, because they obviously want it to be a bigger scale game. But it still does seem to be a kick in the teeth. Those people who have got... I mean, I've seen the amount of miniatures you paint for that game. You have painted probably thousands of miniatures for that game for your customers. And the fact that they've got all these beautifully painted Star Wars figures that they can't use because obviously they've got... I suppose they could use them, but there's all the range rulers that fit into the bases of the particular models and stuff like that. So you'd have to do quite a lot of jury rigging to get them to work in that game.
And because of the scale discrepancy would bother me.
Oh, I mean, it bothered me as well.
I know a lot of people wouldn't bother. It wouldn't, they're just going to use their figures anyway.
Yeah. But the reason you play a miniatures game is because you enjoy the miniatures. It's like proxying in 40k. Yeah. So I've seen people using Coke cans as drop pods.
Oh,
as soon as you do that kind of crap, it doesn't work. It takes me out of it. I want my giant dreadnought to be stomping up against your thing.
For example, if we were playing, say, Vader versus Vader side, and you had an ATSD and I had an ATSD, but I'm using my Imperial
Assault. Yeah, you're using your little wiggly one.
Massive thing.
I will stomp you.
So yeah, that would bother me. But yeah, that's what I've been working on. Obviously, I've got some pictures up here. Hopefully, what Carl told us to do is to, when we say something, we're supposed to pause. So that
okay.
But I keep forgetting that because I get involved in the talking. So the pictures are just going to be.
They'll just go over the top of something. You may be restricted on your view of our pretty faces for a few seconds while they're up, but I'm sure you'll cope.
Alright, so that's it for hobby time.
That is it. I'm going to try and do more next month.
So what have you got coming up next month?
So next month I'm deciding that I'm going to try and paint some more Blood Angel stuff this month. Blood Angel is my main army. Their codex came out a couple of months ago, and cause I'm always buying new stuff. I buy stuff, as most miniature gamers know, you buy stuff far quicker than you can ever paint it. Interestingly, I bought and assembled my Legionis Custodes jet bike dude.
Oh, you got him?
Yeah, I got him. He's all kind of like sprayed up gold now.
You sold the other two?
Yeah, sold the other two. I only wanted one, so I bought a set of 3 at discount for 27 quid.
Well, we talked about this on the last
one. Yeah. So, and I sold them both on eBay. The 2 I didn't want. How much money did I make?
I bet you got 30 quid.
I got £28.50. So I got a free model and an extra quid.
Well,
So really pleased with that. It really helps with the explaining it to your other half as well. You can say, look, I bought this, but look, I've made this money back, so this one's free. Sounds really good. Love the model. Really nice to put together. Looks awesome. I will get around to painting it, but not quite yet, because I'm hopefully picking up a few more customized models. I only need 5 more. 6 models will be my small allied detachment. But I'm going to be painting Blood Angels this month. I intend to get bare minimum. I intend to paint the special character Chaplain Lamartes, because you use him when you use Death Company, and I've got some Death Company. And I'd also like to paint up another 6 Death Company to bring my squad up to 15. So that's what I'm aiming to paint. And then if I have a little more time, I don't think I will have, I'm going to try and paint the Sanguinor and some Sanguinary Guard, who are kind of like the gold dudes with wings. But that's my aims for the month, but bare minimum will be Chaplain Lamartes. You'll see on this video next month. I'm using it as motivation.
And what games you got coming up?
What games I've got coming out? I'm playing a game of Zone Mortalis 40k with Sai tomorrow. He's playing Chaos Space Marines. I'm playing my Blood Angels. Haven't made my army up yet. Haven't made the special mission up yet. I'm going to do that this afternoon when I get home. But that's game 40k coming up, and hopefully some other games, but none planned as yet. I really want to come and get a game of Shadespire in with you, because I still haven't played Shadespire.
And Mythic Battles.
Yeah, really good things about both of those. What have you got?
Upcoming wise, games wise, I've actually got a game of Lion Rampant organised with John.
Cool.
And I've got a game of Molo set up with Molo for Kings of War.
Oh, interesting. A long time since you played that.
Yeah. They got a new. They bring out like this once a year. They bring out like this kind of like an update book to the rules, with new missions, new rules.
That's cool.
New magic items, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I haven't actually picked that up yet, but I should really. So the game we're going to be playing is going to be, say, pre that book.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna.
See, it might kind of like you might go, cool. I really enjoyed that. That gives you the incentive to go and pick up the new book.
Yeah. And I still haven't got around. Me and Paolo are still trying to get together on a Friday to play our Path of Shadow campaign for Age of Sigmar.
Is this using your Minotaurs?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've started putting them up on the shelf there, getting ready for this. And then for video-wise, obviously hopefully all those games will go into video-wise. And then I've got to start a new series of videos as well for a subscription box called Acid Drop. Now, I've gone for this one, and I'll do a separate video where you can see what's in the box, but I'm also going to go with just a little interesting thing. It's like, that's a painting box.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come with any miniatures. It just comes with interesting paints. And me as a painter, I love finding out, but I have this not a focus, but like I'm stuck in my ways.
Yeah, you use what you know will work.
Yes, exactly. Especially because I need to get speed over, experimentation. And this box helps me find some other stuff. And I've just had a look at inside the box, and there's some really interesting new things in that box.
Yeah, there's like some weathering pigment-y stuff and some new washes and things.
So hopefully in the video you'll get to see how those things work out. So for example, like you were saying, like the weathering thing, I'll show you this is what it looked like, and then hopefully I'll show you what it looks like on a model, so that you can see what it comes out like.
Yeah, it'll be, as you say, it's a good way for you to get to know new products without having to expend a large amount of money buying kind of like a stock of this. And not knowing whether you'll be using it,
It's like this just comes to me, open a box and go, ooh, I didn't know this.
That looks pretty. I'll try and stick that on a miniature.
So that's what content I want to provide for the next month. Whether or not all those will come true,
who knows?
Yeah, but because it's been a tough, busy month. But yeah, that was really good.
That it was. So, what other things are we going to say? Are we going to... So, somebody posted in the comments last time that they might want to ask us questions about stuff for us to talk about. So, if you want, leave a little note below. Anything you'd want us to talk about, any questions you want to ask us, or you want us to kind of answer anything, just let us know below in the comments. We're always happy to hear from you and happy to converse with you. Good gamers.
Even if suggestions for this.
Yeah. We love talking about more or less anything game related.
We just like talking.
Yeah.
Talking more than doing.
Yeah, this is it. Our video, we didn't really do what we had on our sheets.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Cheers.